Nurul Zamré with us today. Nurul, thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope to learn a lot from you and learn a little bit about what's been going on in your world, and and what's going on actually in your world. You wear a few hats. Of course, one of them we see you on TV quite on a regular basis. But tell us a bit more about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me, Nordin. Basically, I could just kind of like summarize how it goes about on my journey. I started off when I was in Cambridge. I was involved with a lot of the writing world. So I did a lot of writings ever since I was 7. And then I just ventured out through agencies or even in the media world. I was a writer. That was my main spectrum. So I've always just been a writer. And eventually I get involved with the spoken words itself. So I got into public relations. At the same time, I was also doing corporate communication. So, but my forte has always been just in the writing world. So I've been with several NGOs. I've been working with them for like 7-8 years. At the same time, I'm doing news anchoring as well. So I usually do the morning news, like about 7 or usually like midnight here and there. People don't really watch it that time. But that's usually the time where I'll go on live because I have other things that I need to do as well. But here and there, that's part of the things that I've been going on and on about. But I really like writing, so that's just what I've been going into.
Okay, nice. Now, how did you then get into the world of TV? What was your journey there?
It started off by just a recommendation from a lecturer when I was in university, or even when I was in Cambridge. At that time, it was kind of a conversation where my teacher was like, you've always loved writing, but have you ever felt like wanting to voice out the things that you've been writing all those years? I've always just been keeping a lot of books at home. I have like a bunch of books where today I'm going to talk about this person or that person, but I wouldn't even mention the names. I would just mention about the characters and how they eat, how they talk to people, how they even communicate with literally anyone. So with that kind of information, I try to engage, okay, this person will be best friends with that person. So that kind of communication and that engagement created that sense of public relations that I've had. So I've just been going in depth into that. So when you ask me about the news area, I've always been in love with delivering something, but it has always have to be about something that I would be vouched on highly. And it could be as simple as, oh, there was an accident nearby, and then I report about it. Or it could be about an NGO doing something amazing. It's for the nation, and I've always just been watching about the humanity aspect of it, especially when it's also about mental health. And it's something that people should be able to voice out. And if I were to kind of, I wouldn't want to compare, but I wouldn't make a justification that in Asia, conversations about, let's say, mental health was not even part of a big deal. But when COVID-19 came through, that conversation just became raw and so. So that's when I've just been quite loud about it. And I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that they have a voice. And being in the spectrum of news itself, although I'm not doing the scripts and whatnot, but I have the voice to be able to, okay, this is someone else's voice and I have the information. I just want to make sure that it's out there, it's delivered to the public, and make sure that the information is right. Because every single news that we present that I deliver, it's been filtered so many times, and I have to make sure, if let's say even it's just like 39 point something to whatnot, it has to be accurate. And that's why we have a lot of people like editors, studio directors, and so many people always like looking through, okay, this information, is that correct? Are we lining up with the government, or even with the information that's being out, especially with the situations that's happening right now in the world, where everyone's just like on the radar of, oh, are you okay? Like, how's life? How's everything? It's just a question of, are you okay? That kind of conversation has not really been out. And when we voiced it out on news, it was something that we felt like, oh, everybody wants to have that conversation. Like, I know everyone's just going through like a really tough time, but what do they do about it? What can we do? What can we help? We can be the voice. We're just a platform. and we make sure that the information out is like accurate as much as possible. So yeah, that's basically what I could understood.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Now, one of the things seen in the last few months and really almost the last 2 years now, we have changed. We have moved this kind of digital realm, and we're highly, we're almost like stuck in front of a computer all day long. What do you see as is that going to change? Is that going to, when the world opens up again, or are we going to be more plugged into the matrix? What are your thoughts there?
I think it's first and foremost, I think it was hard to even adjust to that kind of lifestyle. Like before this, we were all having conversations, physical, like literally face to face. But right now, it's more of like digitalization where people felt like disconnected. So there's always way to engage directly, in a sense that maybe we could have private chats and whatnot. It could just be about this kind of conversations that we have. But the thing is that what I've noticed, the way that we kind of put out the whole conversations about digitalization, or even the way things work now, it is not easy, definitely, especially for me as a media person as well, personnel. I also have other things that I'm engaged with, and the information or the communications that we had to engage with, it's always been online. And I always tell them, like, I miss you guys, I want to meet you guys, but it's just gonna be virtual for, I don't know, for the next 2 or 3 years. And even though I work directly as well with United Nations, it's quite hard to even say, oh, we'll meet you next week or next month or next year. We keep on saying things like, okay,
Yeah.
see each other when we see each other. So it's been hard, but we kind of just make sure that we find the balance between, hey, you need to also switch off the screen time, because you have a life like outside of the screen that we have right now is square laptop and
Exactly.
mobile phone. So you just gotta make sure you have a timeline. Like for instance, like I'm not gonna show my schedule, but I have like a schedule book where I have like a what I do literally every single day, or even timeline. I know it seemed a little bit weird to have everything jotted down like 7 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. But I've kind of been trained to always know what I'm doing every single day, every single week, or even single hour. But I feel like that kind of thing made me feel like, okay, I have everything under control. I'm gonna be okay, but it's okay if I don't follow exactly. I could change it around. I have it on physical. I also have it on digital. So if, let's say, I don't have my book, I still have it on my mobile phones or my laptop. So it's always about
Nice, nice.
being digitally connected as well as disconnecting as well. So that's what I would highly ask.
Now there's been we got some questions around flexible work schedule and the kind of blurring the lines between work and home. How do you find, has that happened more in your life since we started this COVID-19 lockdown, or is your ability to schedule, is that your line in the sand, like from 11 to 3 is like work, and then from 3 to 4 I've got this break, or what is your advice to people out there in terms of getting the schedule right?
I think it's always been about. I have this like. Let me show you. Do you know this is scheduling where it's like 7 to-do lists, where 5 is like the most important, and the 2 is like the pleasure or whatever you want to do in the free time. So throughout the 24 hours, you manage your time. Like even though it's 1 hour, you could do so many things, but try to like break it down so that you won't get a little bit too hectic. Because I think eventually with this kind of situation that we're all going through worldwide, I have my friends in the US and the UK, and they kept on saying, but you're always online. Like, how do you stay alive or active or like disconnect? I was like, well, you just gotta make a schedule on how you want to spend, because eventually work is like a priority, but most importantly, it's yourself. So are you like able to even sustain yourself? You have to make sure you eat well, you sleep well, At the same time, are you okay mentally, physically, emotionally, and that sort of things? And then work will come through, emails will just keep on piling up, and then do other things that you liked as well. Like I love to read, so I'll try to make sure that maybe every night I do even 2-3 pages today of what I want to do. And then you make sure that the flexibility that you have is not going to be jeopardizing what you need to do in the morning or even in the afternoon. You just got to make sure that the scheduling that you do is in line with what you're going to do for that day. And it's okay if it's going to be like it's going to be different than what you thought it would be, because this is our schedule. We make it, and we have the power to even just make sure that, oh, I'm going to have lunch at 2 p.m. or maybe at 11 a.m. You know, that's your own your power to do things. And if that's not something that you contribute into, I'm not sure where could you go into in the society aspect anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I think taking control and being in control, I think, is one of the key things that people don't realize for mental health. And you know, when you feel in control, you're actually able to be in control. You know, it's like, you know, when you dream and when you dream and you can control your dreams, then you're able to move your life in a different direction as well. What do you see in terms of yourself or your colleagues who have to deal with you know, like kids in the background and that kind of thing? You know, I still remember there was famous, I think it was a BBC.
Yeah, I saw.
Where the kid was coming in and the guy was trying to like pretend it wasn't happening. And but now I think if it would happen, you know, people would be like, oh, that's normal. That happened to me 3 times yesterday. What do you think? How do we manage? How are we managing this kind of other humans in the background? What's your ideas here?
I think it's okay to have them around. Technically, we're in a state where everything is just happening in like a fast track. And sometimes we could say like we're in the middle of a meeting, and then our kids or maybe siblings just came and brushed through the door and something. You just say, I'm in a meeting right now. Or we could just say, okay, hold up, I need to kind of fix that, like deal with that for a moment. It's okay, because at this point of time, or even back in those days, we all have things that we have to prioritize. At the same time, your work is of course a priority as well. But at the same time, your your quality time, your bond time with the family, with the friends that you have around you should be something that you could just say, oh, hold up, I just need to deal with that. I'll get back to this literally right after that. But the thing is that with the situation that happened with that guy when he was live as well, I think that was also during news or meeting.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
quite, I was like, wow. But I think I had few of my colleagues who had to go through that as well, but we take it like nicely, like, oh, okay, we're all going through that as well. Because one of my colleague had his kids, and he was like, oh, my kid's here, I need to fix that for a bit, like, sorry guys, I'll just turn off the camera for a bit. And then he came back after like 5-10 seconds after that. But if it was like urgent, of course that he had to be like taken care of for a bit. But it's okay that the family is around, because we have a different work arrangements right now, and sometimes people don't understand that that's like a priority as well. Even though work is the main thing, but our family and friends, especially at home, should be something that we should take good knowledge of. And I feel like that should not even be an excuse. Like, yay, like, okay, they're around and they're happy. And we should just like, okay, I have my family here. Like, I just want to make sure that they're gonna be okay, but I'll be back. It's okay to just take a pause for a
yeah.
bit, and then eventually things will work out. But it's always about making sure that you have that communication with your team, that you have your family around. You have to take care of you have to take care of the little kids or even your siblings and whatnot. I have a sibling who's autistic, so sometimes when I'm at home and I have a meeting, I have to be like, okay, I'm sorry guys, I need to fix him for a little bit. Like, I just run off for like 5 seconds, and then my mom would be like, is everything okay? I have to go to the office for a bit, and then I'll come back just for like an hour. And then I was like, okay, but make sure that you come back in this time and that time. So that arrangements, when you do it with your family, or even if you have a nanny, then you just let them know that you have this important meeting and whatnot. But in the pandemic right now, everyone's going through the same things, and to just voice out that it's okay to be in that state. That's all that matters, really.
Hmm.
I don't think it should even be.
Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah.
No, very nice, Nurul. And I think one of the things that everyone, for some reason, a lot of questions we get every on this episode as well as every week, especially around mental health. What have you seen in the different organizations that you're plugged into, and with your friends and relatives? What seems to work in terms of being able to manage mental health, and what are some of the pitfalls that are not people are not handling themselves well, and what is your advice to people in that sense?
Okay. I think first and foremost, when we talk about mental health, you don't just say, "Oh, I know mental health." You've got to ask questions. Are you okay? Are you in the state of not okay, or how are you really? I've always been like highly watched on mental health because I've been an advocate for so many years, and being in the sphere of NGOs, or even I would say that I'm in the refugees organizations as well. So I always get this statements where they say things like, "I don't think I want to live anymore. I don't want to go through this kind of lifestyle. I don't feel safe. I don't feel happy to even just voice out anything." And I was like, "What happened?" That question, like, "What happened? How are you? How was your day?" Like those little things, even though you think like it's just like a really small thing, but it actually could change their lives, because it's just the simplest things could save a lot of things that we're going through right now. Because it's like, in the state of a human being, we're all always kind of like asking, are we going to be okay if we don't have this, or if we don't have a safe home? Obviously we're not going to be okay if we don't have enough food on the table and stuff like that. It was just in the state of, are you okay, in the state of not being okay. So when someone is going through something, you just had to ask, like, how are you really? Because how are you,
Hmm.
how are you? But the really part, when I ask my audience about that, they that some of them do not want to be public, and I created like a group chat, and then they start voicing out those things. At the same time, it was like a conversation where we could have this voiced out, because everybody's going through something, and even though you're going through it differently doesn't mean that it doesn't matter. So it's kind of like, okay, I went through this part, but I feel like I could handle it myself. And then there's also another friend of mine who went through some really tough time, and she had to go and see the doctor and whatnot. It was something okay as well. At the same time, it's a conversation that I feel like everybody needs to speak about, and it's not like a point where we could just say we want to sort out instantly and whatnot. But the thing is that I feel like, sorry, I feel like everybody should just be okay in the state of not being okay, but at the same time, it's okay to ask for help. And eventually, with the environment that we're going through, digitalization, nobody seems to know what it's really up. And you just have to ask, like, how are you really, friends? Even if you feel like they're not
Hmm.
friends, you just have to ask, how are you? And that thing could change
Hmm.
one's life instantly.
Nice, nice. Now you've been involved with a lot to do with the refugees and all this. We see on the news recently a lot of conflicts very close to home in ASEAN and South Asia. Do you think that is going to have an impact here, and will we see more refugees in Malaysia, in the region, and what do you see happening there?
Actually, if I were to just voice out about refugees in general, I don't have that voice, but I could be the one who like delivers that voice. In, for instance, but if you ask me, will there be a lot of refugees in general? They don't ask to be a refugee. It's just that the country is going
Mhm.
through so many things. Like, if let's say you are in a country where there's wars and there's a lot of destruction, would you want to stay there? So that was the reason why they even had to find some way safe. Like, the family had to find different different areas where they could get better education, better even housing, or even better future for the family. So that was one of the only main reason why they even had to find a better shelter for their future. So I think that was something that we feel like we needed to be voiced out, and that was the only reason why they are who they are, and they just needed help, and that's what we should do as a society.
Okay, nice. No, that community approach, and then we've seen what's been going on with the white flag movement, the Kita Jaga Kita movement here in Malaysia. What have you seen in terms of the positive response, especially Malaysians helping Malaysians? What do you have? What have you seen there, and what ideas do you have for moving that forward?
For Malaysians helping Malaysians, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. With the Kita Jaga Kita movement.
I actually like the tagline. I really highly support of how it's being established. But at the same time, there's always the pros and cons of things. Where are you really doing something, or are you doing it for the sake of something? So that's what I've always just been saying about, or even voiced out. Because you could say we could take care of each other, but are we really taking care of each other? You know. So it's an individual's I'd say perspective. If you want to take care of someone, you don't even need to say it to someone else. You could just say it on your own and then just do it all. It's just by actions, everything will sort out. Really.
No, nicely said. Now, coming back to work and coming back to this idea of digitalization, a few questions that we had was around working from home and how can companies better incentivize employees? Should companies give new technology? Should companies give more flexible working hours? What is your idea in terms of that becoming a reality? Because most likely we're going to be more digital. It's a trend that's been put in motion. But what should companies be thinking about?
In terms of the incentives per se, like new technology, new routines, I think it's hard to even justify about how we could ask companies to do. But the thing is that with the new way of working, we just want to be connected with each other, but not overly connected to the point that we can't disconnect. So I think if it was in terms of incentives, it could be about, okay, so let's play an online games, for instance, and then if you win, we'll give you a coupon to this and that. Because even though it's kind of like, are you sure? But those little things do matter at some point. If we need it, let's say free lunches or free maybe get together or maybe playing games together and whatnot. Because we're always constantly connected, and it's like we can't disconnect if we're always going to be around each other all the time 24/7. And I think that's entirely, even though digitalization is important, but it's not healthy in a sense where if we're constantly connected, we do need to disconnect as well. So we just gotta balance it out and give time for the employees to also feel like, okay, I can do it, but I also want to do something on my own, and it's okay.
Yeah.
You just support them.
Okay. No, I like this idea you talk about. Give people free lunch and all this stuff, because of course our show is a working lunch with Nordin, and one of our things that we usually do is actually go for lunch, and really once people with 2 vaccines are allowed out now, but I'm still quite happy to be at home with the numbers being where they are. But and that's kind of one thing that I've tried with my team. Like every Monday, we just, okay, you all just order whatever you want it's like order whatever you want from Grab or Food Panda or whatever, and this is our Monday routine, and it's kind of been an interesting experiment in that sense, where people just, for me the idea was get rid of Monday blues, and get rid of the idea of oh man, I've got to go start. Okay, look forward to like whatever you want on Monday. Let's go and whack some pizza or a burger or a salad for those who want to be healthy. But I think something that we're trying to experiment with in terms of motivating teams and motivating individuals. But I think this is, and then Shamita has asked us a very interesting question about encouraging talent to grow and lead in that remote setting. In a lot of cases, you're in a group setting, people, naturally take charge. What do you think in terms of in a sense, how are you going to take charge in the digital world? How are teams going to, how will leaders emerge in the digital world in a different way than in the physical world? What are your thoughts there?
I think if one is a leader, it doesn't really mean like if it doesn't have to be in a space of digital or non-digital that they had to showcase that they are a leader. Because once you are a leader, you just know what you need to do. Because if you're a follower and you're trying to justify what you can do and you cannot do, that just shows that you're not a leader of a team. You've got to be able to trust your basically your unders, like your managers to even your executives and whatnot, to be able to have the sense of responsibility to that task. At the same time, try to see how they can manage things through. And I feel like a lot of the conversations could be on and on about the pressure that we're going through, especially in digital workspaces. We could have you, as a leader, you should be able to know what are the capacity of each of your team members, and then eventually you'll know which tasks are they doing, and then you'll also be able to venture into, okay, this person can do this and that, but you also have to ask them, are they okay with doing this and that? It's not going to be like, okay, you're going to do this by hook or crook. You got to sort it out, and that's all I want. As a leader, there's always a characteristics or like a yeah. If I could just say characteristics as a leader, and you should be able to watch it highly. If you are a leader, you should know exactly what you need to do, and you don't even have to say, okay, I'm asking you to do this because I want you to do so. There's a as a
Mm-hmm.
leader, you're like a teacher, so you
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to lead your team in a healthy way where people don't feel as if they just want to like they feel like they want to slap you or so much more. There's always that kind of attitude where people just don't like you. So if I were to kind of concept in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
like you've got to be a nice one. A leader is someone who is able to know and understand what the team members are feeling and understand, and also the
Mm-hmm.
skills and whatnot. So they just have to kind of manage things out, and at the same time you've got to be sane enough to understand why things work out, why things don't work out. If it doesn't work out, then find another way. It's as easy as it's,
Mm-hmm.
but you've got to do a lot of managing on that.
No, I appreciate that. I like that idea that you need to be sane enough and you need to be a teacher as well as be emotionally in tune with the individuals within your team
Yeah.
to get the task done. I like that. And Muslim Mariza from Jakarta, terima kasih. You always join us. I always appreciate you joining us. And as I always promise every week, I am coming to Jakarta as soon as we can travel. We miss being in Jakarta and being able to travel. As we close off this session, Nurul, where will be the first place that you travel to, or where is the first place you want to travel to once borders are open?
I really want to go to the beach. Maybe most likely I'll probably be back in Europe for a bit, but I'm not sure which countryside or the beach that I will go to. I want to go back to the UK or maybe to the European side for a while, just for a while. Yeah. What about
Nice,
you?
nice. Oh, for me, I've got to go see my mom, and I think she's probably watching today. So it'll be a trip back to Australia, into Queensland, Australia, which will be fun up near the Great Barrier Reef. So hopefully get in some snorkeling, some diving, and a little bit of fishing, if not some cricket. So yeah. So with that, Nora, I want to thank you for your time today. Really insightful discussion, and I really appreciate your time and your insights. And any last words you have for our audience today?
I think I could just, I don't want to make it so long as well. I just want to make sure that, if you're a team, if you're in a team, make sure you check up on every single one of them. Even if it's just like, how are you? Did you eat? Is everything okay? Because those questions will really change the way they somewhat live. And I think that's all that we need in life. We just need to like check up on each other, even though if we're just co-workers or family members or literally strangers. That's all you could ask. Like, how are you? Are you okay? Like that small thing could change the whole world and how we live. Yeah.
With that, Nurul, thank you very much for joining us today on A Working Lunch with Nordin. And for everyone else, we look forward to seeing you on our next edition. And thank you all for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye.